Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. It's our evening Shabbat class, 22nd of August, 2026. Okay. My main topic today is I'll be dealing with the issue that's with the Pentagon and how it's uh, using schools to replace JC with these. I got to get it right. Christian nationalists. Okay, I got caught up on that. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. These videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. If you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Okay, it'll be greatly appreciated. And for those that want to support the channel, help it move along, we have our cash app at the bottom of the screen. Okay, that too will be greatly appreciated. Okay, for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, from Genesis to Malachi, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior, our Redeemer, and our Deliverer, the Lord of Hosts. Okay, this channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up in these last days to their true identity and also understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to this channel and welcome to our evening Shabbat class. Okay, we're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer, a psalm. We have some current events, a little need to know information, some dialogue. Our topic for discussion, like I said, will be exposing the Pentagon use of Christian nationalist schools to replace Christ. Okay. Then our scripture reading will be, I'll be dealing with a video that's dealing with the giants of Afghanistan and how the government don't want to talk about it. Okay. Then we'll pick a scripture like we normally do. We'll break that scripture down, and then we'll go into our we'll send the link out, then we'll go into our questions and comments, our dialogue, and then we'll close out. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Okay. Oh Lord, we come before thee, bow down, honoring you, praising you, believing in you. And we thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge that you have poured out upon us. And through your prophets, you have revealed the times that we, the Jacob's children, will endure the tribulation. Keep us, O Lord, and guide us and deliver us. When we see you now within the Holy Scriptures, when we trust you, O Lord, with all our heart and our soul, keep not thy silence, but shine forth on our enemies with all thy great power and thy great glory. Peace be unto you. Okay. Read the song right quick. Okay. All right. Okay, I read Psalm 5. It's a prayer for protection. Psalm of David. It says, give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditations. Hearken unto the voice of my cry. My King and my God, for unto thee will I pray. My voice shall thou hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and I will look up. For thou art not a God that hath pleasure in wickedness, neither shall evil dwell with thee. The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing. The Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man. But as for me, I will come into thy house in the multitude of thy mercies, and in thy fear will I worship toward thy holy temple. Lead me, O Lord, in thy righteousness because of mine enemies, and make thy way straight before my face. for there is no faithfulness in their mouths. Their inward parts is very wicked. Their throat is an open sepulchre. They flatter with their tongue. Destroy thou them, O God, and let them fall by their own counsel. Cast them out in the multitude of their transgressions, for they have rebelled against thee. But let all those that put their trust in thee rejoice, and let them ever shout for joy, because thou defended them. Let them also that love thy name be joyful in thee, for thou, Lord, will bless the righteous with favor. Wilt thou compass him as with a shield. Okay, that was Psalm 5 is a prayer for protection. Okay, a Psalm of David. You got any feedback on that? Good? Okay. Here we go. We're going to our current events. Okay.
About the American truck market. Prices went up, buyers got squeezed, some people fell behind on payments. A normal affordability problem, a normal economic story. That reading is not just shallow, it is dangerously wrong. What if the collapse happening on America's dealership lots right now is not a pricing problem at all? What if it is the visible symptom of a decision made years ago by policymakers trying to protect an industry? A decision that is now consuming the very consumers it was supposed to protect, while an entirely different country quietly inherits the market America is abandoning. I want you to hold that question in your mind, because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the truck sitting unsold on a Chevrolet lot in Ohio and a pickup truck rolling off a container ship in Lagos are part of the same story. Two events, one architecture. And I am going to show you the architecture. Here is my thesis. Today, I am going to show you exactly three things. First, that the American truck market is not experiencing ordinary inflation. It is experiencing a structural repricing that has already pushed the average buyer out of the market entirely. Second, that the very trade policy designed to protect American truck manufacturing is functioning as a hidden tax on the American truck buyer. And third, that the vacuum this is creating in the global pickup truck market is being filled methodically and at scale by a competitor most Americans have never thought to look at. On this channel, we do not do panic and we do not do cheerleading. We follow the logic of power. We follow the incentives. And when you strip away the emotion and the headlines, the picture always becomes clear. Let me start with the facts, because you need the ground beneath your feet before I take you into the analysis. In March of 2026, Kelley Blue Book recorded the average transaction price of a new full-size pickup truck at $65,964. That is not the sticker price of a loaded trim. That is the average across every buyer, every configuration. 2 years earlier, that same average buyer was paying roughly $1,800 less. The overall new vehicle market broke its own record months later, with the average transaction price crossing $51,820 in June, edging past the previous all-time high by a single dollar. Analysts at Automotive News traced part of that spike to a specific mechanism: destination fees. That line item, the one almost nobody questions on a window sticker, rose by close to 40% in less than a year on some of America's best-selling trucks. Industry reporting attributes a meaningful share of that increase to tariff costs being folded quietly into the fee rather than into the sticker price itself. Less competitive pressure from outside. They do not need to lower prices to win a buyer, because the buyer's cheaper foreign alternative has been taxed out of contention. So instead of the wall producing cheaper protected goods, it produces something else entirely: pricing power. In vehicles, up from just over 1 million the year before, with company disclosures showing that exports now generate meaningfully higher margins than domestic sales inside China's brutally competitive home market. Every unit that leaves China for a market America is not defending is a unit of global truck demand lost. The fortress was never built to protect, only to tax. Geography is where the truth always lives. Draw the map. The tariff wall sits on America's borders. It does nothing in Lagos, in Santiago, in regional Australia. Behind the wall, prices rise and repossessions climb toward 2009 levels. Beyond the wall, in every market the wall cannot reach, the truck that America priced its own citizens out of is being replaced, market, by a competitor with no wall to hide behind and every incentive to undercut on price. Now,
okay, so he said this market is already collapsing because of these tariffs. So, yeah, you got anything on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. And those tariffs that Trump put on, at first it was looking like, at least to me, that it wasn't affecting some of the other countries, but it looks like this does right here.
Right.
Which
The long run.
Right.
Okay.
This brilliant pillow keeps your airways open even if...
You got to talk about how AI is destroying everything. But first and foremost, let me show you how nobody trusts these AI tech demons. Nobody trusts the Epstein class tech CEOs. So look at this from More Perfect Union. Young people really, really don't trust tech oligarchs. New polling shows that among adults aged 18 to 34, 81% don't trust Alex Karp. That should be 100%, by the way. 79% don't trust Peter Thiel. That should be 100%, by the way. 71% don't trust Mark Zuckerberg. That should be 100%, by the way. 70% don't trust Elon. That should be 100,000%, by the way. And 69% don't trust Sam Altman. Not long ago, these numbers were very different for Silicon Valley titans. So that's the good news, is that it used to be like these people were looked at as geniuses and heroes and, you know, revolutionaries in a way, like tech revolutionaries. Now everybody's like, fuck them and the horse they rode in on. And they're right. They're right to react like that because these are the people who are ushering in an incredibly dystopian future. Okay, More Perfect Union also says tech layoffs this year have already flown past all of 2025. 2025 was a bad year for tech workers with 122,606 jobs lost. But less than 8 months into 2026, that number is already 125,759. Sowing the seeds of your own destruction here, being involved in this this AI stuff that is used to steal your job immediately. It's very disturbing. It is very disturbing. And I don't know what these idiots expect when they're promising to create a technology that eventually takes everybody's job in the short term. What do you expect? They're cutting government programs that could keep people afloat while they're also taking their jobs. You're begging for revolution. You know, you're begging for the correct reaction to these people is to like nationalize their fucking countries and force them to like, you know, be used in the national interest. Instead, now they're just being used for profit and for rank destruction. It's like evolution for the sake of evolution, even if it's something that's going to kill us all. And it's like, I don't know, maybe we should pump the brakes a little bit and not do wild, wild west type growth, which could lead to disruptions in people's lives that are genuinely apocalyptic. All right, but I still got more for you. So, More Perfect Union says a city in Kansas is suing residents who tried to ban data centers. Edgerton, Kansas is suing multiple women and an organization in an effort to avoid a citizen petition that would have banned AI data centers. Enough signatures were collected. The county legal department reviewed the petition and determined that it generally conformed to state requirements, and the city received a copy of the petition. But instead of sending the measure to voters, the city council voted to authorize the filing of a lawsuit to challenge the petition's validity. So now you have all these like government officials at different levels throughout this country. They're all probably directly bought off by the AI tech companies, and like they're going after their own constituents and their own citizens, and like they're working as henchmen on behalf of these companies. And so you're now seeing this dynamic prop up everywhere. The place where I live, the county board agreed to like have data centers be built. And then the new board gets in there and they're like, we don't want to fucking do this. And then you have the company suing the town to be like, well, you're going to allow us to do it because the last guy said we can do it. And it's like, okay, but you probably paid those motherfuckers off in some corrupt scheme. So like, it's a war, bro. It literally is a war. This is why Republicans have always been so full of shit when they try to convince you like your enemy is gay people or trans people or Muslims or Jews or this ethnic minority or this religious minority or whatever. No, it's never been the case. Ever, ever, ever. Your actual enemy is the billionaire class. And this is such a great example of it here, where they will stop at nothing to get more profit. They will stop at nothing to enrich themselves at your expense and ruin your life by poisoning your water, stealing all of your fresh water, polluting the area, both like literally and chemically, but also when it comes to noise pollution and things of that nature. Like it's all on the line now, man. It really is. All right, we need a full moratorium on AI development because this is crazy. First of all, they're literally trying to take everybody's jobs, but also we still don't talk enough about hallucinations and like how AI oftentimes just makes shit up randomly, right? And now it's like people are renting out their brains and going, I'm committing to not thinking anymore. I'm committing to not actually, doing any attention to detail anymore. And the end result is this. You have school districts relying on AI for shit like this, and then you look at it and it's like a horror show. Nah, man. Nah, this has got to stop. It's like humans are rushing to try to not use their brains anymore and get dumber. And AI is almost like trying to send us a message like, don't fucking rely on us. Don't do it. We're going to fuck your shit up. I mean, we've covered the stories of lawyers who like used AI for something they submitted to the court. And then like cases were literally made up and it was totally fake. And it's like, what? How is this okay? People have been disbarred as a result of that shit. I'm sorry. We need a total moratorium on any AI advancement.
You got anything on that?
Excuse me, Shalom, Brother Leonard. Even in this video,
three things
telling
that
you who's
$10,000 for it.
Hold up. Yeah, go ahead.
even in this video, you fine, Brother Leonard? In that video, he's talking about those people you've been playing clips of, those Edomites like Peter Thiel and them.
Right.
And it was showing you too, like those people are probably bought out by those tech companies.
Oh yeah, definitely. We know they bought out. But them and those Israelis, Edomites, buying them out.
Right.
Is this something?
They were blackmailing them. Yeah, either way, they got them under their hand.
Exactly. It goes to need to know information. I thought this is pretty interesting. I really don't deal with this dude, but I thought this is some good information. Check it out.
We warn all of you about Project 2025. We've seen every goal of Project 2025 come to pass. And from eliminating voting rights, abolishing abortion, getting rid of diversity and inclusion programs, all in less than 2 years. Michael Harriot, founder of the Contraband Camp, dropped this article, Project 2025 Performance Review. He lays out how Trump achieved every goal of the white agenda. He joins us right now. All right, Michael, break it down. You said mission accomplished.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I took up embarked upon reading all 922 pages of Trump's, the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. And I think what people don't understand is like Trump had a similar, complementary plan, if you will, called Agenda 47. So Agenda 47 was essentially the sales document for Trump's white agenda. And Project 2025 was like a detailed blueprint. Well, I went through and laid out the 10 worst policies and how they would affect Black people. And I thought about looking back at it because there was a little item in the newspaper Monday that very few people talked about, right? Everybody's talking about Stephen A. Smith. The Trump administration had been telling EEOC judges basically, hey, don't rule against any discrimination cases. Don't even make a decision until we lay out our new policy. Well, his new policy debuted on Monday, and basically he's banned all federal agencies from even counting the demographics and so every agency in the federal government has an EEOC office and a civil rights office. So they catalog like racial discrimination, and they take the statistics. That's how we know that teachers were punishing Black students disproportionately to white students harsher. And so Trump's solution was, hey, why don't we just stop counting the races? And stop counting the racism. That should solve everything, because you can't fight racism if you don't have the statistics to do it. And that was his plan all along. And people, the few people who talked about it were saying, you know, how shameful it was. But this was part of what he laid out in Project 2025. We were talking about the more hyperbolic stuff, but plan was a way to get the federal government, the inner workings of the federal government. Remember the last time when he talked about draining the swamp, he wanted to fire all of these people. Well, it's really hard to fire government unionized employees. So what he focused on was two offices, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and the Office of Personnel Management. Basically, together, they're like the HR department of the federal government. And what he said, well, what if we don't just fire people? What if we just install appointees that don't have to be confirmed into the HR department? And that's how he's been clearing house. And that's one part of Project 2025. And it was the final piece, the final part of the puzzle of everything that he wanted to do to whitewash this government and make America white again.
When we talk about whitewash the government, essentially what he did the exact same thing that Woodrow Wilson did. He came in and said, oh, we get rid of the federal. He brought segregation back to the federal workforce. Not only that, Trump did this in his first term. People forget the reason when it came to the contracting, they stopped collecting data. So their whole deal was, yeah, we're not going to collect racial data. So you didn't know how bad it was. Well, we've had other folks that track it. Let's just say the money. A bunch of these Simple Simon Negroes out here who claim Trump was going to put more money in their pockets. Well, in the last year of Biden-Harris, Black-owned businesses got $10 billion in federal contracts. Now, that was only 2%. Okay, not a great number, but the $10 billion was a record number. In not even the full 2 years of Trump, that number is down to 1.2%. You're talking about a loss of nearly $5 billion in federal contracts. I know numerous Black businesses that have been wiped out, destroyed because of what's happening in federal contracting.
Y'all, the doctor said this swelling is from parasites.
Part of Project's 2025 plan. So if you look at the 2027 budget that Trump submitted to Congress, right? One of the lines is they wanted to eliminate the Minority Business Development Association. So many of those businesses that you were talking about got the money through the Minority Business Development Association, and Trump wants to eliminate this. Again, people are outraged. He told us he was going to do it. It's not like he slipped something in our drink and then we woke up and all of this stuff that we have achieved was gone. And what's important to know about this, going back to what Dr. Carl was saying a few minutes ago, right? Like the people who all this crazy nonsense about, you know, both parties are bad, or like the Democratic Party don't like us. Nobody ever expected the Democratic Party to love us. The EEOC that Trump is essentially wiping out, that was created by a Black man named Hobart Taylor, who forced LBJ and JFK to literally on Inauguration Day to let him into the White House. And he wrote two policies, right? The one that created the President's Commission on Equal Employment, which became the EEOC, and the other one was a new policy that no one had ever heard of. He created the term on his own called affirmative action. These are the things that Trump wants to eliminate, but they're not things that like the Democrats gave to Black people. It's things that Black people use the Democratic Party as a tool to realize for themselves.
I know, Michael, here's again what happens when Simple Simon, silly Negroes can't read and get played. Remember when Trump put this little thing out the platinum plan. Remember that? Come on,
Yeah,
guys.
I remember that.
Now,
Right.
all right, I'm gonna go to the business part because you just said something people didn't care. He put in here fueling access to capital for Black-owned businesses. And again, he's saying Negroes like, see, y'all sitting here, y'all dog Ice Cube. Ice Cube had an agreement where they were gonna give us $500 billion. Look at the third one right there. Trump vowed to make the Minority Business Development Agency permanent, appoint its leader to the Assistant Secretary of Commerce level, create a sub-office of African American affairs, and engage with private sector advisors to ensure real-world plans and solutions. Now, we called bullshit when he presented it. What you just articulated is 180-degree different from this. This was always a joke. It was a tinfoil plan. It was nothing but politicking. It was never real. And what he has now done with MAGA and the Heritage Foundation is exactly what they actually wanted to do. That's been presented since Reconstruction. I said, are you stupid? I said, don't you ever repeat that dumb shit to anybody ever again. I said, fool, the NAACP, the National Urban League, D9 groups. I said, I could run the CBC. I said, I could run you a plethora of Black agendas that have been presented. Oh, I said, MLK. I said, hey, I said, dude, I said, SNCC, CORE. I said, man, we can run this thing down for more than 100 years. I said, don't ever say it again.
Right.
I said, so y'all actually think that y'all was so smart and so right that y'all came up with something that nobody else thought about? Hell, Amos Wilson got a book that's damn near this thick. I know Greg got a copy back there. Laying out the same thing. Dr. Claude Anderson. I said, what the hell are y'all talking about?
Right. And it also insinuates like, hey man, like the reason that we haven't gotten the things that we have demanded from this country or this country owes us is that like we just didn't write it down yet, right? Like, and Ice Cube wrote it down and now we'll get it, right? And that's not how politics works. That's not how white people work. That's not how getting things works, right? From somebody who has stolen them from you. And the idea, like, I think agendas are fine, but we got enough agendas. Let's like, if anything, we could just, update the language and put it, maybe the font, but we got enough agendas. It ain't the agenda. They have a plan to kill us, right? It ain't, we got to decide, like, you know what, we need some more, a little bit more of this, and we got to sprinkle some salt on this thing that we made last year. We got enough, man. We have to understand it's them. It's not anything that we've not done.
Absolutely. Joy.
All right, look, so everyone knows if you've been on here, I'm an alumnus of the EEOC in the Obama administration under Jackie Berrien. If you care about the EEO-1, which is what our guest is talking about here, and the consistent data collection that every company has done, that they use to their benefit often to show what progress they've done. And if we don't have it, we won't be able to see how they are undoing that progress. This one is for us specifically, but other groups, it collects all kinds of data, right? On the basis of all kinds of demographics. If you're a woman, if you're a person with disabilities, etc. The EEO-1 is highly important.
I just found out that if you have two cars on your car insurance,
his name several times, Hobart Taylor. Just for all y'all know, Hobart Taylor, native Texas.
Oh God, no.
I'm just saying, native Texas, Prairie View A&M University graduate, and also a graduate of the mighty Crimson and Gold. No, I ain't gonna say what you thinking, but he's a graduate of Jack Yates High School in Houston, Texas. Okay. So I just want to go ahead and for all the folk out there who don't quite.
Okay, what you think? Got anything on that? saying that they have a plan to kill us. Right? The Trump project 2025 mission is accomplished. What you think?
Oh, that sound right on par. And he is doing a lot of those things. Well, not a lot of those things. Pretty much doing everything that he said he was gonna do during the campaign run.
Right.
And finishing off what he started when he was president that other time.
Right. And then he pretty much did all that the first 100 days. You know what I'm saying? He demolished what we had in place the first 100 days.
Right.
What do you think?
Right. Yes, sir. All they
Okay.
gotta do is enforce it harder. I guess, you know.
Okay, yeah. We're going to topic for discussion. Okay, I thought this is pretty interesting. Check it out.
All right, there are a couple of big stories in the news that reveal how a particularly dangerous form of Christian nationalism is being pushed by the government right now, largely outside of public view. The Defense Department is going to initiate a Christianity.
Yeah, when you're listening to this, go to Testament, especially Testament, and you can see it in the Handmaiden, but specifically in the Testament.
Western civilization course for the high schools it runs on military bases, and the state of Texas will be offering a new Christianity in American history class. I'm going to talk about those things, but first I want to give a fairly long preface to explain why the Christian nationalists talk incessantly about American history and why they're offering these classes and putting them into schools, and how they use that as part of their propaganda and brainwashing campaign. This is some really dangerous stuff. It's not only politically dangerous to the nation, but it's also spiritually dangerous to the church. It conflicts with the Constitution, which says the government can't establish a religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof, but it also represents a profound distortion of the biblical gospel. It takes Christian words and symbols, separates them from their biblical meaning, and uses them to construct what functions as an entirely new and different religion, a religion that's centered on the nation and political power rather than on Christ.
Christian nationalists.
Christian nationalists use one key concept from the Bible to make their false religion look like Christianity. They often invoke the biblical concept of covenant, and some of their most influential leaders do so explicitly. At Rededicate 250, Lou Engle called for a national covenant renewal, and Dutch Sheets declared that it was Recovenant Day, not Rededicate Day, but Recovenant Day for America. Now, that language may sound biblical, but it fundamentally misuses one of the most important concepts in Scripture. So I want to begin with a quick and very basic explanation of biblical covenants. And look, you got to go to seminary for like 3 or 4 years to really get the full lowdown on covenants. So I am not by any stretch of the imagination pretending that this is a full description and explanation and definition of biblical covenants. It's not. Just very, very brief and basic. Okay. All right. So I'll go over that, and then I'll show how Christian nationalists twist the concept of covenant and how their new national covenant corrupts the very gospel that it claims to defend. I'm Jonathan Burton, and I speak as a Christian who has big problems with Christian nationalism, as all true Christians should. The first big problem is that it ain't Christian. And the second big problem is it ain't constitutional either. A divine covenant is a solemn, binding relationship established by God through promises that define how he will relate to his people. Now note, the first important point, a divine covenant is established by God. We have no power or ability or authority to initiate a covenant with God. We can make promises to God. Individuals can dedicate themselves to God, But no human act can create a new divine covenant. A civic ceremony can't place God under obligations to our nation that he never promised to accept. The second important point is that God defines the covenant and identifies its people. Group can't select itself. You can't be a self-selecting covenant group. And you can't declare your group to be God's covenant nation.
So me sitting there listening to this, it's ironic, and it's just how the Lord of Hosts works, is that we go back and we look at how what they done with the Tanakh, how they translated it to Greek, and then they went to work on it and changed it all around. Well, what they done being changed all around now by the Christian nation. They're getting a taste of their own medicine. What you think?
Okay, I see what you're saying. After you said that,
Should have knew that was coming, because what you did, what they did. Okay,
right?
Right. That's why you hear so much whining now about Jesus Christ, what they doing, these no high laws and all that. Well, it's the same thing you did with the David and the Lord of Hosts and all that being done to you, with the religion you concoct.
Showed his authority on them. And once enough people believe that, then they can do anything they want. They'll have, pretty much full power. So what in the world does American history have to do with all that? Well, that's their starting point. Because before you think it even matters whether or not they speak for God, like, right now it doesn't even matter. You can say you speak for God all day long. Who cares? Nobody cares. So to make it matter, they have to make Americans believe that America was chosen by God as the new Israel. And if it was, then it would be important who these men are and whether or not they speak for God. It would be important to know whether or not they are God's prophets. So they have to first make us believe that America has been hand-selected by God as his special nation on earth, and then believe that God has selected them to speak for him, as just the same as he had prophets in ancient Israel. And whoever's able to convince the people that he's that person God has chosen, that person will have a path to full and unlimited power. Now, I have to tell you, as a young person, I believed all of this. Everything I'm talking about that they want us to believe about America and covenants and God's blessing upon us and God's selection of us as a special people, a chosen people, a kind of a replacement for Israel. I believed that for many, many years. And it wasn't until I really started getting more serious about studying the Bible that I started to realize, wait a minute, it's not true. That's not true. That's not true. None of this was true. And that's kind of how I came to realize none of this is true. And now when you see the types of people who are pushing it and they're talking about Christian this and Christian that, and you see how un-Christian they are in their behavior and what they put up with and what they compromise with, just lends more credence to the fact that it's not true in the first place.
Okay, what you think?
Same thing there too, Brother Leonard. And we know what they got going on doesn't line up with the scriptures.
Exactly, right. And like the video I played this morning, more and more of them, the Most High is waking them up to understand that what they've been dealing with is lies, and the people they've been dealing with is liars. Okay? Same way he's waking us up. It's all coming to a head.
Right.
Okay. You go.
Who it was just crazy to hear what their build out looks like right now, and said that when they go in, they're looking at like defunct coal plants or other power plants that are nearby these data centers, and if they can't get the power they need from the local community, they just buy up the coal powered plant or the other power plants that were there. They buy them up, and then they revitalize them, bring in a couple thousand people, build it out to a new energy complex, and then you think, that's great. So now that coal plant that you're taking over, which is defunct, it closed 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 10 years ago under regulations and onerous regulations and so forth, you're going to revitalize it, and then the community will benefit and everything else. So you're already seeing this across the country. People without data centers, even in their backyard yet, are seeing increases to their kilowatt hours, their per kilowatt hours, upwards of 12, 13, 14%, just in prices. We in Colorado have already seen prices skyrocket, even without the massive data center build-outs, because it's future projections. So it's the auction process of electricity. So the future projections on the auction process believe that they will be over capacity. They believe, and local communities are saying, expect blackouts. If I could, I'll give you an example. Homer City, Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, near where I went to college out there, University of Pittsburgh, and that whole area in Western PA. This is a really interesting anecdote because Homer City, they, their energy prices have already increased, but they're building this. The data centers that have come in there have revitalized the old coal plants that are there, and were shut down in 2023. Now they're building this massive Homer City energy complex. On top of it, converting it to natural gas, but the people of Homer City don't get the benefit of it. They don't get any of that. It's going to go to the data center build out, and I think the mayor, the other members of the local city council have already seen those prices go up and have said that we will expect blackouts. This is Pennsylvania. This isn't Texas, where you get incredible heat waves. You'll still get heat waves and things, but not like Texas or Arizona. So expect blackouts. Like over the next few years, our grid cannot handle this. And so the people of this area that live in the surrounding area can expect to see their homes affected by this and blackouts that will unfold in these neighborhoods, from what I can tell. But so you have the future projections of costs of this energy build out that are already affecting people.
I guess I'm struck by so many parts of the story, but the one that I'm fixated on maybe most is the total powerlessness of the people who live in this country to have any effect on any of this at all. Going back to what you said at the outset of the conversation about the Department of Justice targeting anyone who complains about this or tries to slow it down, have there been, I don't think most people are for this. I don't think people understand exactly what the purpose of it is. I don't think there's been much of an attempt to convince us that this will improve our lives, which is to say the technology itself, AI, data centers. How is that good for me? How does it make this a better country for my kids? No one's spending any time trying to convince us that it is. It's all scaring the crap out of people, maybe for good reason, maybe not. I really don't know what the motive is.
Walmart facilities and thousands of children being trafficked, but we're gonna audit data centers.
Abbott has overseen the total destruction of Texas, and that's I'm not saying he's evil, he's just weak, but doesn't get the credit he deserves for that. But it'll be obvious in the next 10 years.
But New York, so we'll see. I don't know, and I don't know what's going to happen in Texas. You have this Project Stargate project in Abilene, Texas, arguably one of the largest data center build-outs in the world, in Project Stargate, one that President Trump has championed. So I wonder if there's going to be any pushback from the AI task force.
That's the place you're talking about with Elon Musk, ain't it?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. You got anything else on that?
These blackouts, we already starting to see them, and then just the effects to the people. You was talking about that too, Brother Leonard. The people that would do these kind of things, like they know the effects that it's having on the people, but they don't care nothing about them. They just want to oppress.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Stories about giants have been told
We'll deal with this here, then we'll pick a scripture, and then we'll go into Q&A.
Thousands of years. They appear in the history and folklore of nations across the world, often describing enormous warriors who towered over everyone around them. Some of these stories may have become exaggerated as they were passed from one generation to the next. Others may have started with real people who were unusually tall and powerful. But for Christians, the subject of giants cannot simply be dismissed as mythology because the Bible itself speaks about the Nephilim, the Anakim, the Rephaim, and several unusually powerful giants who terrified entire nations. But now, a new story from Afghanistan has raised new questions about whether giants could have existed more recently. At the center of it is an enormous creature that American soldiers allegedly encountered near Kandahar during the war. According to filmmaker and researcher Timothy Alberino, military personnel and people connected to the Pentagon become extremely uncomfortable when this subject is mentioned. Alberino discussed the story during an appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience. He claims that some officials will speak openly about unidentified aircraft and other highly sensitive subjects, but immediately shut down when someone asks about giants in Afghanistan. Listen carefully to how he describes their reaction.
I've heard a lot of things about giants in Afghanistan. And I find that, I talk about a lot of different topics. I talk about a lot of UFO stuff. And I say some things that I know could get me in trouble, but nothing makes me more nervous than talking about giants, specifically the Kandahar giant and the giants in Kandahar in general.
Why?
Mainly because when I talk to people who know things, they're very, very nervous when we get to this topic. And some of them will just flat out will not talk about giants in general, but specifically giants in Afghanistan. And some of these guys are high-level guys that worked at the Pentagon. And they'll talk rather freely with me about UFOs. But as soon as we broach this topic, it's like they literally will warn me, be careful with this topic.
What? That reaction is unusual, but silence is not proof. Military personnel may avoid the subject because of classified missions, fear of ridicule, or rumors they cannot confirm. Still, Alberino says people who freely discuss other strange events suddenly become nervous when giants are mentioned. Afghanistan is the perfect setting for such a story. Much of the country is covered by enormous mountain ranges, deep valleys, and caves that stretch into areas few outsiders have ever properly explored. Some villages are so isolated that reaching them can take hours or even days through dangerous terrain. Afghanistan has also endured decades of war, making large parts of the country extremely difficult for archaeologists and researchers to study safely. Even the most powerful armies in history struggled to control its remote regions, including the forces of Alexander the Great. If giant human-like beings had somehow survived into the modern age, there are few places where they could remain hidden more easily than Afghanistan's. Its vast mountains and inaccessible cave systems would provide the perfect place for such creatures to exist without the wider world ever knowing.
You got to realize, like, Afghanistan is an old country. It's old and it's very remote. Like, most of it is very mountainous. It's controlled by warlords. And, look, there's these, what are those? Are they Greek or Roman, those structures that are there that date the Greek? They look like Greek temples that date back to Alexander the Great. Mm-hmm. And archaeologists can't study them. They can't go there because it's too dangerous.
It's one of the most remote places on the planet, specifically because it's so dangerous. You can't just go strolling around Afghanistan. I mean, it probably would be easier to go to Antarctica than Afghanistan.
During the war after 9/11, American and NATO troops carried out missions in areas rarely seen by the public. The Kandahar giant story reportedly began when a military pilot claimed he had transported an enormous, unidentified body out of Afghanistan. Alberino later investigated after an elderly woman said her son had witnessed something the public needed to hear. Take a look at how Alberino says the story first reached him.
This story has grown into a mythology over the years. Years ago, I was working with a gentleman named Steve Quayle, and we started a production company called Gen 6 Productions. And we were making documentary films mainly about giants, mainly on the topic of giants.
Giants as like referred to in the Bible, in ancient history, the Smithsonian giants.
That's right, biblical and historical accounts of giants. So I was traveling around the world investigating giants, and Steve is known for his investigations into giants. And he got a phone call from an elderly woman who told him, "You need to talk to my son. My son has a story he needs to tell you." And she had to convince her son to talk to Steve, and ultimately he did. And he was active duty. He was a C-130 pilot, active duty. He actually went on coast to coast with Steve. They went on coast to coast together, and he related his story, I believe, with George Norrie, him, Steve, and George.
There is one major problem with this story. The pilot has never publicly revealed his identity. Alberino says he saw the man's credentials and confirmed that he was an active duty C-130 pilot, but the public has not seen any flight records, photographs, or physical evidence. That does not mean the pilot was lying. He may have had genuine reasons to remain anonymous, but for now, his story cannot be independently confirmed. According to the pilot, he landed at Bagram Airfield in 2005 while flying cargo missions across Afghanistan and Iraq. This mission immediately felt different. Intelligence officials were reportedly waiting on the runway and warned him not to take photographs or speak about what he was about to see. A large covered pallet was then brought towards his aircraft. Before it even arrived, he noticed a terrible smell. Then he saw parts of an enormous human-like body hanging over the edges. What the pilot reportedly saw next made the story even stranger.
Because there were intelligence guys on the tarmac waiting for something. And it turns out what they were waiting for was the cargo that was being delivered on a forklift to the C-130. And the pilot says that the first thing that struck him as this cargo was moving toward him and his crew was the odor. He said it smelled like musk, BO, and death. And it was extremely pungent. And when the cargo arrived, it was on an air cargo pallet, which is 7 by 9. And he could see that there was a person on the pallet in the fetal position. And this individual was so large that his hands and his feet and part of his head were hanging off the pallet. And he and his loadmaster, and there were some Marines who accompanied the pallet, who accompanied this cargo. They were actually putting their feet up to this guy's feet, this dead giant's feet, and seeing how small their feet were compared to his. Now, the giant had red hair. He had 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot. His feet were wrapped in like a crude canvas foot wrapping.
The details about 6 fingers and 6 toes immediately stand out to anyone familiar with the Bible. 2 Samuel chapter 21 describes a huge warrior from Gath who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 digits in total. 2 Samuel 21:20. And there was yet a battle in Gath, where was a man of great stature, that had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in number. And he also was born to the giant. That warrior was associated with the descendants of the giants, and was killed during a battle with Israel. This does not prove that the alleged Kandahar creature was one of those biblical giants. Having additional fingers or toes is a recognized human condition known as polydactyly. and it still occurs today. Red hair is also found naturally in ordinary human populations. Even remarkable height can sometimes be caused by medical conditions affecting human growth. But when all these details are brought together, extraordinary height, enormous weight, unusual strength, and 6 digits on each limb, it is easy to understand why some people immediately think about the biblical account. The reported measurements are also important. The creature was supposedly between 10 and 12 feet tall and weighed approximately 1,100 pounds. That was the Nephilim before the flood, but adds, and also afterward. In Numbers 13, the spies claimed they saw the Nephilim in Canaan and said they felt like grasshoppers beside them. 10 used this frightening report to discourage Israel, while Joshua and Caleb trusted that God was greater than any giant. The Old Testament mentions several peoples known for their great size, including the Anakim and Rephaim. King Og of Bashan was one of the last Rephaim, while Goliath and other giant warriors came from Gath. These passages confirm that giants appear in the biblical record, but they do not prove that every unusually large person was a Nephilim. So how did giants appear after the flood? Some believe another rebellion like Genesis 6 occurred. Others suggest the potential for unusual size survived through someone aboard the ark. Another view is that the frightened spies used Nephilim as an exaggeration. Scripture does not give a definite answer, so we must distinguish clearly between what the Bible says and the theories used to fill the gaps. The Kandahar story becomes even more dramatic because Alberino claims the alleged incident was not limited to one creature. He says people with military connections suggested there were multiple giants in Afghanistan. He also recounts conversations in which government-connected individuals reportedly changed their behavior as soon as the subject was raised. In one example, a man with a special forces background who worked with a senator was allegedly asked what he knew about the Kandahar giant. According to Alberino, the man immediately became serious, demanded to know why the question was being asked, and warned the person investigating to be careful. Watch how Alberino describes this alleged warning.
I have to be very careful here too. He said, I was talking to a certain individual who works for a senator. He's a staffer. I believe he's one of the chief of staff for the senator, or at the very least an advisor. And he's got a military background, special forces. And he said, I was sitting there, we're really good friends. He said, we're having a casual conversation, as we always do. And just in the midst of this conversation, I said, hey, what do you know about the Kandahar giant? And he said his face completely contorted. And they were no longer just being happy and laughing. He became very stern. And he said, what have you gotten yourself into? What are you looking into? He said, you need to be really careful. And he wouldn't tell him anything else.
Why would officials refuse to speak? One possibility is that there is something real behind the story and the people involved were ordered to remain silent. If the military encountered an unknown human-like population, officials might fear public panic, scientific controversy, or difficult questions about what happened during the operation. But there are also ordinary explanations. The people may have been protecting classified information unrelated to giants. They may have recognized a well-known military rumor and wanted no association with it. They may have been concerned that a casual comment would be turned into confirmation of an event they never witnessed. Without identified officials speaking on the record, we cannot know which explanation is correct. It is reasonable to find their alleged reactions intriguing. It is not reasonable to treat those reactions as final proof. There is all.
Okay. Got anything on that? The feedback?
Shalom, brother Leonard. I seen and heard about, seen some of those videos about the excuse me, about the giants in Afghanistan. I want to say the video I seen was like in '07, or the picture. The military finding one, and he had the
Okay.
fire red hair and all that.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Okay. You got
And then so they still hiding out in the caves and all that.
yeah. I mean, I think it's like the guy said. The people get uptight about it. I think they know it's more going on than what they proclaiming. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. And then uh, it's got to be some kind of portal or something got to be going on because if they were just in a certain place, they've been peeped that out. People be bummed upset.
Oh yeah, true.
So wherever this other one that supposedly these soldiers came in contact with, a lot of other information was exposed from that. That they don't want to talk about.
Right, and they keeping that stuff under wraps. Then
Oh yeah, exactly. Right.
probably
Then
do.
who knows? That might be their secret weapon. They got hid. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna pick a scripture and break that scripture down and go into our Q&A. You gotta send that link out, and anybody else that want to any comments can come through YouTube if they want to.
Right. So, Berlin, I'm gonna go to Isaiah 40. I know from my scripture. Hit this link. And okay, Shalom, Berlin. I'm gonna read Isaiah 40, and this is verses 12, just 12, 13, and 14. And it
Okay.
says, yes, sir. And it says, who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out heaven with the span, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in seals, and the hills in a balance? Who hath directed the spirit of the Lord, or being his counselor, hath taught him? With whom took he counsel, and who instructed him, and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him knowledge, and showed to him the way of understanding? In Shalom, Kyrie 15:2, brother. It says,
Go ahead.
behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as a small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little. And Shalom, that is Isaiah 40, verses 12 through 15. Shalom.
Okay. What's your take on that?
Well, Brother Leonard, in 13, where it says, who have directed the spirit of the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
spirit of the Lord, angel of the Lord, same thing. So I would say this is the Lord of hosts. And this they're saying, I mean, who's his counselor? Will be Yahweh.
Exactly. Is it?
Sure.
Yeah, it's another verse that I told you I had been looking for a long time. I found it, I highlighted it, I wrote it down, but I still be having. I'm still on in the process of being able to recall it. But he asked the question uh, about he implied about his counselor, the Lord of hosts did.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him to say that, that means that it can't be Yahweh and it can't be uh, JC who's doing the talking.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, we'll open it up for Q&A. Anybody got anything? Let me get this right quick. It was just answered on the video, but they put this question up. What nation is God from? And then the guy just told you from Gap. Okay. You got anything?
Shalom to Belinda, where so in that video where he was talking about with the Giants, and them finding, and them finding the Giants and all that, you had mentioned it could possibly like be a portal or something like that, or you think they could have been in the earth, or
Yeah, well, it's from I did a couple of videos on that, and then I did a lot of research on it back in the day, and the thing was they sent out like two different what they call them squads. They sent one first squad out. They sent out. If I'm not mistaken, they was looking for something else, and this squad, this team ended up running into the giant, and he killed all of them. So they never could get no response through communication with them. They don't know what happened to them, so they sent another one out, another squad out. When they got to a certain point, they started finding all these body parts and seeing this equipment scattered all over the place, and the blood everywhere. They didn't know what was up, and then they saw he said this giant red-headed giant appeared on like this like it was like a cave system, but he appeared out in like a plateau. When you come out of the cave, there's a plateau right in front of the cave, and he appeared out of nowhere on this plateau with the spear and all that, and roaring and all this stuff, and they got into it with him or whatever. So I'm assuming that he came out of the cave, and evidently you got to be must be came from another dimension. What I'm saying, like I said, I mean, for them to say and the way they talk about it, how powerful he was and how tall and how all this is. Well, he had to be. Other people had to know he was there. You know what I'm saying? The locals had to know that. And then not only he ain't just appear by himself. He come from a lineage, a DNA, a family. And another thing it reminded me of too was, did you remember the House of David?
right? Yes, sir.
Remember, the lady had the boys. She had Goliath, and she had other sons, but they was hidden in this cave system with this big ass door on it. Nobody knew. Only few people knew where they was at. Somebody had tipped the king off, and he went there and trying to request Goliath.
Right.
But their habitation was hidden in this cave system. Remember that?
Right, because you're right. The king, the king of Gath, right? Akish,
The king of Gath was evidently he had rumors or whatever. He had contact with somebody that knew exactly where they was at, because and then they referred to them as gods. You know what I'm saying? Because he was like he kept referring to it's like I said, the lineage, and they had some kind of supernatural celestial take on it, that who they was, and where they dwell. Oh yeah. So when I saw that, I said, it made sense because of when you come to this story right here. Like I said, he was in a cave. He came out of a cave. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I seen something like that too, Brother Leonard, one time. I don't know if it was true or not, but it was like like, well, I don't know if the video was AI or not, but it was like a giant thing kind of came out. He had an ox head and then like like a humanoid body, and he had came to the front of the cave like you were saying, and then he ran back in, but he like had like it was like a cow in his hand, but he had it in his hand like you know like he was playing with a toy.
Right. Well,
And
yeah. I saw this other movie too. How and then that's the thing when you go back in so-called ancient times and the ancient records and folklore and stuff. It's dimensions within these caves. You know what I'm saying? I remember watching this movie where the guy had or the girl had she had lost her. She said she went. She was based from America, but daddy was in cold trail in this so-called, I guess, a Sasquatch or some kind of giant,
mhm.
and he had went over to that area. I think it's in over that area right there where Afghanistan there, but he disappeared.
Okay.
Nobody knew where he was at. So the girl went over there on a quest of trying to find her father. And then the way it all ended up was she started coming in contact with this being. Evidently her daddy came in contact with him, but he had the ability he can go in his cave and then he'll disappear and nobody know where he was at in the cave. And then come to find out, the girl come to find out the further they went back in the cave, or they went into another dimension.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what movie that was. I seen that concept before in something like Narnia or something, but it in it it being in the cave, I have seen that makes sense. Cause I seen that in the movie, like
Even Journey to the Middle of the Earth the same way.
Journey to
No,
right,
Journey to the center of the earth.
to the center. Yeah, yes, sir.
Right, exactly. They ended up into it was a whole other world, but they went through a dimension. And inside this cave system, they ended up in another dimension, in another time frame. The dinosaurs and all that was there, but yeah.
Okay, right.
And which you, I guess the proper word would say portals, because we know that's what's in the Bible, portals.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right, yes, sir.
Okay.
And Berlin, I have one more question. If you I haven't been able to find this book, but I had just seen this graphic like on somebody YouTube, and it's a few verses, but it says David's compositions, and it says it's from the Dead Sea Scrolls, but I haven't been able to find this, but it says David's compositions, column 27 of 11Q PSA. Like I'm not sure what that means, but the verse says, and David, the son of Jesse, was wise and wise in the light, like the light of the sun, and literate and discerning, and perfect in all his ways before God and men. And the Lord gave him a discerning and enlightened spirit, and he wrote 3,600 psalms and songs to sing before the altar over the whole burnt perpetual offering every day for all the days of the year, 364, and for the offering of the Sabbaths, 52 songs, and for the offering of the new moons, and for all the solemn assemblies, and for the Day of Atonement, 30 songs. And all the songs that he spoke were 446, and songs and for making music over the stricken, and the total was 4,050. And all these he composed through prophecy, which was given him from before the Most High.
Right. So right there, that's where you can see where they got the understanding or concoction. They twisted it, saying that all the songs was pertaining to JC. They were prophecies.
Right.
Yeah, we
Okay.
know it's a lie, but it only makes sense because Look what Solomon did. He said,
Right.
well, fruit don't fall that far from the tree, right?
Right. Because
Mm-hmm.
numbers are similar in it's either the Song of Solomon or the Wisdom. I do remember reading that where it said
Right,
that Solomon wrote it was around this much too.
right.
So
Yeah.
then it's a lot missing then.
Oh yeah, right, right. That's what I'm saying. Another thing too is how, the books. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? And we know if Noah had a book, you know what I'm saying? And we know Adam had a book, Enoch had a book, Canaan and all the rest of them had books.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff missing. Then especially when you get around the time of David, and the scriptures that they have in there that's mentioning the book of Nathan and all that. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine what kind of information is taken out with Nathan?
Mm-hmm.
And
Hey,
he's,
yeah.
Gad, all they encounters with David.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes, sir.
Right. I mean, like like what we the other day, last week, how it's all coming out now that the guy telling you how that Enoch had cataloged all the characteristics of those fallen angels and had them in different lineages and different groups, and they can connect the characteristics of certain giants to certain fallen angels and all that.
Right.
All that taken out, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that's been taken out. All that was a guide for us today.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
That's something. Got anything else? Anybody got anything?
Shalom, Brother Leonard and Brother AJ. Um, Brother Leonard, what is I guess the definition or etymology of a testimony? What is that actually? Would you say a testimony actually is?
It's like an eyewitness.
An eyewitness. Okay.
It's like what you want to call that? It's similar to a covenant,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right?
Okay. And earlier I had talked about some angels. I think, where am I at? Enoch 69. What I'm reading, reading in regards to, I remember when I was much younger, wasn't even out of my parents' house. And even as I got older, there has been a long debate, and it may still exist. Is abortion a sin? And there was always this talk about specifically those who agreed with it being okay, that it's not a human, that it hasn't left the womb, it can't have life on its own. And when I was reading the book of Enoch, when I had those questions about chapter 69, verse 13 reads, "And the fifth was named Casdaja. This is he who showed the children of men all the wicked smitings of the spirits and demons, and the smitings of the embryo in the womb, that it may pass away, and the smitings of the soul, the bites of the serpent, and the smitings which befall through the noontide heat, the son of the serpent named Tebet." And when I read that, it was like, wow, if all this text, and I feel like this is always something people talk about when they read it, was put together with all the other scripture like it would be, we wouldn't be so lost into history about what's wrong and what's right, and having to debate. But the fallen angels taught about basically having an abortion. So we already know it's evil. And it's surprising to me because I don't think anybody could ever point to scripture and say yay or nay. It was always people trying to prove you could or you couldn't do it, but there was no relevant text. And when I read that, I thought, wow, the text has always existed to show that intentionally killing and aborting is something that came from the fallen angels. Shalom.
Your example is in the Genesis 38 with Judah's sons when he pulled out. So if he killed him for pulling out, quite sure it's a problem for killing an embryo or fetus.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So yeah. But the crazy part about it is that's in it's in Canaan. It's in the story about Canaan in the book of Jasher, how that those women were taught how to make a certain draft to keep them from having babies because they wanted to keep their figures. And then it caused a problem because of the men wasn't attracted to their wives no more after they had babies. They was attracted to the women that was drinking the draft. Matter of fact, it said that Zillah drunk the draft.
Yes, you know what? I do remember that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, when she got older, just like with Sarah, she finally had babies, which was Tubal and his sister Naamah. Yeah. Anybody else got anything?
I do have a question. It just slipped my mind. With the fallen angels and the children they created, because it's the children they created, the Nephilim, that basically what is it? Had interactions with animals. Was that things that we find now that we say lived years ago, like dinosaurs? Are those bodies of their children, but not from humans because they were with females and each other and animals?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I would say that's two different distinct classes of creatures, because it's Ojo, OJO. That's when the 200 angels came down, and because they crossed they first estate, they crossed it. Once they crossed the line, they became perverted. They had a perverted sexuality. So not only did they go into the women, they was going into men, and then not only that, they was going into animals. So when they go into the animal, that's where the Ojo came in at. Those are the ones that was extremely violent, and they the ones that was eating people.
Yes, sir. And yes, sir. That goes into my next question. I had, speaking of conspiracy theories, I had, when that Pizzagate thing came out, and that was a big thing, and Trump was saying it was real, and then all of a sudden it wasn't real when he got in office. I never doubted it, but I was always wondering, how could somebody get to that point? Is there something else going on, or is this a mixture of people trying to do occultic things, and or humans are eating humans because they are from Nephilim? Like, why do we know that this is really happening? Like, why is it really happening? Is it just because people are trying to connect with demons? Are some of these people that are eating humans, unfortunately, are they truly seed of Nephilim?
Yeah, they still the DNA is still here, and the reason why they not we don't see, we still see people that with height, but not the height that was in back in the day, but the DNA still exists. So it's just like anything else. A squirrel, a squirrel gonna be, he gonna grow up, he gonna be fond of nuts. eating pecans and eating walnuts and all that. Well, these giants, because of the spirit and the DNA that where it came from, that's how they ended up. And then so when you had animals and the animals eat flesh, and then these angels mated with them, then part of that the product of what they brought forth, he's got animal characteristics. They eat flesh and they want blood. So the DNA gonna do what it do, whatever it's gonna do what it do. And like I said, with the Most High give us the blueprint on what he had to do with Adam. When Adam came down, when he created Adam, he had to put him to sleep and do surgery on Adam. And he took the female qualities, characteristics out of Adam and made a woman. Well, those giants, we make those man is made in the angel's image. So if that's the character that was part of the composition of Adam, that means the angels had their composition. But because they wasn't, they were supernatural beings, they didn't need to mate. So when they did mate, they actually messing up the DNA because they got an overdose of, if you bring it forth, if you mate with a woman and then you already got that all those DNA in you, then you giving it's an overdose somewhere. And that's where the homosexuality came in there. It never was supposed to happen. And then you get on down to find out that they just slept with animals, so you got this animal DNA, animal sexuality, and all that, and a double dose of the woman, double dose of the man, all that. That's where all the drama came from. So all this what we seeing now, like I said, it's got to be something wrong with a man. There's something definitely got to be wrong with him to want to be with another man. There's got to be something wrong with a woman to the point where she sexually attracted to another woman, to the point where she pursued him and ended up with him. There's something wrong. And then and we got laws pertaining to it. The Most High said, root them out. You get rid of the DNA, because if you don't, that person's gonna sleep with somebody else. They're gonna sleep with somebody else, and the DNA gonna continue to move. The DNA gonna mutate, and that's where we at now. 2026, it mutated, and that's where we see all this crazy shit. But the scriptures tell us to take the people outside the camp and get rid of them. And what he call that? Rid Israel of that seed. Same with kids that ain't right. If that kid ain't right, he said you gotta root him out, take him outside the camp, and then after you get to a certain point, you gotta read him out. Read Israel of that seed or that problem. Like I said, all you're gonna do is get some more. If this person is like that and they breed with somebody else, they're gonna bring some more. So Most High said, once it's spotted, you get rid of it. You get something?
And that makes sense. I talk to a lot of people that don't agree with some things because of the whole New Testament and the idol in there. There's things like, oh, well, God is not an evil God. And in my head, it would be evil, as you said, Brother Leonard, to let this sin just run amok and let this evil run amok.
Right.
But yes, sir. And I had always wondered I thought it was a fad. I thought it was just something people were pushing when I kept hearing things like, this is just the way I am. I just feel like this. And I would think, no, somebody pushed, somebody paying you. And I still think that's probably part of it. People getting paid to push it. But that makes sense. I'm not paid to be Black. This is just my genetics. I have melanin. I can't do nothing about it. And that makes sense. There's nothing some of them can even do about it. Wow.
Right. And like you did, the way to rightly divide that is look at the men in the Old Testament, they didn't have that problem. So when you start talking about testaments, okay, so look at the Old Testament, and those men will they came from Adam, all that wasn't going on. So look at the laws. So obviously the people that wrote the New Testament, they came from that corrupt stock. That's why it's saying what it's saying in the New Testament, because they have it's they trying to make a right or trying to make it right because they had that they got that DNA, they got the problem. So that's what the New Testament all about, trying to make all those things that the Most High and His thoughts statutes had a problem with. So the people that got together in the New Testament, so-called church fathers, they trying to make all that good because they had those characteristics.
Yes,
Like I
sir.
said,
I had always thought, what type of person is this? If this character is the same being in the Old Testament that is telling everybody not to stone the lady who had sex outside of marriage,
exactly.
and then also goes to talk to a lady who was not married, but she's sleeping with 5 different men, and you don't do anything about it. I agree. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The
So
Greek
they
Testament
justify it.
pushes love for any and everything and all types of lust very quietly.
They justifying their lifestyle. They justifying that DNA, that very DNA the Most High said do something with. They came with the New Testament and to justify it. Okay, that's all. It's that simple. And like I said, the wrote it in red, making you think some divine being told you that when they setting the standard by putting everything written in red. That's what they want you to conform to. Won't have nothing to do with the Creator. Yeah. Got anything else, AJ?
Shalom. Berlin, you said the OJO is how I spell it?
OJO, if I'm not
OJO.
mistaken. Yeah, OJO. I had back in the day. I stumbled up on it. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking it was in Joshua, if I'm not mistaken. I wrote all that down, and I did some research on it. I had a bunch of printouts from off of what they call those printouts from off of the internet, like articles I had printed out, and I came across that I was dealing with the Giants, and then that came up the Ojo, which are giants when the angel slept with an animal. So it's part angelic being, part human, and part animal. And then, like I said, from there, they end all this crossbreeding happened. The Ojo would sleep with a Anakim or a Nephilim, and then it's all twisted all up. And that's why the flood came. You had to rid the earth for all that.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. That wasn't Joshua Berlin because one of Esau's sons had encountered one of
Yeah,
them.
one down is in the cave.
Right.
And it sounded like, to me, it sounded like the Minotaur.
Because it said
You know what I'm saying?
like the top was like a bear and
A
the
bull
bottom
head. It sounded like a bull.
crazy. Yeah, and said they was
Yeah,
riding
a
horses.
man body and a bull head.
Right.
That's a Minotaur to me. Right?
Yeah, had the half and half, right?
Yeah. That's crazy because about last week, I think, maybe last weekend, I saw an AI video with Jacob, Jacob was in a conversation with a man, a minotaur, and he was trying to persuade Jacob when it's something he had to do with, but the AI video had the minotaur trying to persuade Jacob into doing something. You know what I'm saying?
Jacob, like Israel, Jacob.
Yeah, it was a video. I listened to when I clicked on it, it was pretty much at the close to the end. I just watched it because I wanted to know they had the way they had set it up. You know what I'm saying? They had him. He was he could talking, and he was he had that they had the way his voice sounded like I don't know if you seen the movie 300. Remember how they was doing Artaxerxes? How they was toting him around on this big old throne.
Right. Sure.
And then he come down off that throne to talk to Leonidas, and he had that angelic voice.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's how they had him. They gave him some kind of angelic voice, and then he had a bodybuilder body for a man, but he had a minotaur head, bull head. Mm-hmm. That's something.
They don't get more wicked than that.
Right, exactly. And then we see all that in the story. We assuming that it's mythology, but we know that they like today they talk about fish people. It's fish people. It's just like the frog, and he can amphibious. He can live on the water and on the land. So because of what those angels did, it was beings that had the ability to be live in the ocean and come on the sea.
Right.
Matter of fact, what they say about the mermaid. I didn't fully understand that until I don't know if you've seen Below Deck. It's a series. You ever saw that?
No, sir. I haven't.
It's these people. They got a company where they take people out on cruises and all that, and they have a team, like a 5-man team, and they got different boats and all this. But anyway, it was like a city that was by the ocean, what they call a coastal city, I guess what you call it. But anyway, this guy came in contact with this girl that was he had saw on his boat, and he couldn't find she was a mermaid. But the thing was, certain time of the year they come up to the land and they lose their fins. They lose their fins and their legs come. And they come up on the show, and then they be like they be working because they'll be working, come in town, get jobs and stuff like working at the bartender and all that. And this girl here he ended up on his boat working for them people on the boat. Yeah, but they had the ability to. I don't know if you know the story about how they can sing you, put you into a trance.
Right. Yes, sir.
They sing make you go crazy, make you go a love craze, go out of your mind. Once you if you allow them to sing to you.
Right.
It was on what that was, the movie we watched. The movie I talked about, Jason and the Argonauts. With Hercules. It's part of the myth of Hercules where he was on his island and all these mermaids on his island and they was singing and all that. Yeah, you can't allow them, you can't look in their eyes and you can't allow them to sing to you.
Right.
Right. Is that song?
That is.
And you would think just on the surface, you would think, oh, that's mythology, but the more you get into it, then you start making sense.
Right.
certain things about it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it makes sense. Like it just hit me just now, bro, Leonard, when you said that. When I was thinking about the timeline, and putting all the books together. When what book is that? The Lamech of Cain, where it
Right.
says, because isn't Naamah, she from Lamech and then one of Adam's daughters, right?
Yeah,
Or
she from Ada.
okay, right. So
Zilla.
then
Zilla.
Zilla, right? Okay, and
Yeah.
she got older, and then yeah, so they could so remember how I said in there she could sing, right, brother
Right.
Leonard?
Exactly.
And
Right.
then it say she turned into a siren.
Right.
Uh,
And they also said that about the wives of the 200 angels.
right, yes, exactly. Hmm.
They turned into mermaids, and the reason being was they pursued the angels. They lusted after them.
Right.
They
Hmm.
pursued them. So they were judged. Ain't that
Right.
something?
Yes, sir. The
Yeah.
narrative doesn't always say that part about it.
Right. Exactly. It's down. It's like I say, the more you do your research, the more you dig, a lot more evidence start coming out.
Right.
You start piecing it. You can piece. You can start to be able to discern what's right and what's right and what's good and what's not good.
Sir.
Yeah. Even the story behind the Pope. The reason why he got an outfit. He got a fish suit on, right? You know that, right?
Yes, sir. I remember
Yeah.
you referencing that. Mhm.
Right. And the reason why he's dressed in a fish suit because Dagon it was a being, an entity, a creature that came out of the ocean over there
Right.
in Italy and gave the reason why they got the understanding and they got on the way their civilization grew so fast. So this supernatural being or intelligent being came up out of the ocean, but he had human characteristics. He had fish characteristics and human characteristics, and gave them a whole bunch of knowledge. And they started, they turned him into a god worshiper, like they do, like the Egyptians do with the Minotaur. Minotaur. Ain't that something?
Right. So, so is that that got any connection to JC having the fish symbol? I remember that in church.
I would say the back door. I would say yeah, because matter of fact is he was just one of it was a race of people, like they say now. When they talk about the Marine Kingdom,
Rain King. Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's a race of people that lives in the ocean. We saw that in the book of Adam and Eve. But
Uh.
those, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, the people coming out the water.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. And you would think that's far fetched, but like I said in the book of Enoch, it talks about that Enoch explains that the purpose of the rain is in heaven. These angels, like he told let me get this right. He told Noah about the rain comes, it's anointing in the water when it's in heaven. Like he told Job, where was you at when my storehouse is the snow, my storehouse is the rain, all that. Where it's angels up there, and these angels, it's an anointing that's put in the water, and when it falls to the earth, and make a connection to the earth, and all it wherever it fall to, the anointing is released, and the purpose of the sun is to bring that water back up. Condensation, evaporation, and it bring back up, and the water get retooled. It's just a mad process. So I said all that to say, and it's just me. So I remember back in the day, the lady was saying I used to watch these documentaries, UFO documentaries and stuff, and the lady was saying that she didn't. She stayed on by the beach, stayed in the beach house, and she got up one morning and came to her front glass, and she can see a UFO hovering right there over the water, and the UFO was sucking up regular water out of the ocean, out of the ocean water, sucking it up into his ship, and then took off. So then I said, knowing what I had came across, so they evidently they know what it is in the water. And it's not like what we need to do. We being humans and us dealing with we got to go through this big ass process of making gasoline and all that. But these beings, they already know what's up with the water. They crafted they ship they craft this off of water. They know what's in the water. But I would have came to that conclusion if I hadn't came across the fact that what Enoch had would have been revealed to Enoch about the water. It's whatever they do up in heaven it's in the water, and the water falls to the earth, and then it does what it does, and then it goes back up. Sun draw it back up. It keeps the same process happening over and over again. Some kind of power source in the water.
Right. Yes, sir. That make a lot of sense too. And
Yeah.
I know anybody that pretty much created like a vehicle to run on water or a plane to
Right.
fly off. They went missing.
Exactly. Then they probably figured it out, but there ain't no money in that. They want to, you know what I'm saying? There's more money in dealing with electrical vehicles and gas and all that stuff to make money off of the population. But yeah, it said it was, she said that the UFO, and then I saw a few videos, I saw a few movies where the UFO was hovering over the ocean, sucking up ocean water.
Mm-hmm.
And sucking, you know what I mean? So and that's where they was getting their fuel from, the water. Is that so?
Right, sir. I think
Yeah.
they was doing that in the colony. I can see it in my mind too from a movie. I can't recall right now, but the colony. I think they were doing that too.
Right. They understood that. It was something. It was something. They knew the process. They knew whatever it is that was in the water. They knew about it, and they knew how to extract it out. It was a power source.
Mm.
And then, like I said, once you start looking at everything, I mean, then look at us, our bodies, how we are pretty much, what it is, 80-90% water, and then we born in water. Water got to break and all that. Something
Mm-hmm.
going on with that. Oh yeah.
Right.
And then how the baby don't drown. He's up in the mama womb in water, but he don't drown.
Mm.
Like that song?
Right.
Oh yeah. Like that song. So you good? Everybody good?
Shalom, yes, sir.
Okay. So
Brother
with that
Leonard.
next.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. I have one question in 67 of Enoch, verses 4 through, where is it at? 9. It talks about the angels that are what seems to be placed in a volcano. And I'm starting at 7. And when all this took place from that fiery molten metal and from the convulsion thereof in that place, there was produced a smell of sulfur, and it was connected with those waters, and that the valley of the angels who had led astray mankind burned beneath that land. And through its valleys proceeded streams of fire, where these angels are punished who had led astray those who dwell upon the earth. Verse 9. But those waters shall in those days serve for the kings and the mighty and the exalted, and those who dwell on the earth, for the healing of the body, but for the punishment of the spirit. Shalom. Um, So I had never read this. When I ask questions just for insight, I have not read through this entire book. I'm just opening up and reading.
Okay.
So what we're reading here, I know that people take precious things, quote unquote, from volcanoes and use them. I had never heard this before. Um, and someone had told me you have an older video where you talked about this. And I just learned this yesterday. And then I read this. So, and I read it this morning. So these, I'm sorry, these fallen angels are no longer there because later on it says, for in verse 14, for when those angels are punished in these water springs shall change their temperature, and when the angels ascend, this water of the spring shall change and become cold. So are there angels that left their punishment?
No, well, they haven't ascended yet.
They have not yet. Okay.
When they ascend.
Okay.
So that's when the judgment, the final judgment comes. They're gonna ascend. You're gonna have the ability to ascend, but that's not a volcano. It's a place. When
It's
you
a
go,
place.
when you start reading, when you start go back to reading, but when the angel did show you the tour that Enoch went on, he told him it was different places he went to. That was one of the places. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank
Right.
you. When I read that, I thought, did some of these angels already ascend, but they have not yet? Okay.
No.
Thank you. Shalom.
Right. So you good, AJ? Okay. Shalom. I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.